It gets thrown around all the time, but ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that Justin Trudeau's time as the Prime Minister is quickly coming to an end, and boy, do we have a story for you today. Let's get into it.
Oh, yeah!
Oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Fringe. No memes today, no funny gaffes, no jokes about the Prime Minister or it's over. I know the it's over joke. Shout out to Jasper Sunshine with that one. I know it kind of gains its steam over the YouTube political community, but ladies and gentlemen, I firmly believe when you look in relevance to this morning's video, which, by the way, if you haven't seen it yet, you should go check it out, where the House of Commons passed a motion in a Arrive scam to see all payments that have gone out, to see all documents that have gone out, to see any promotional money that went out, and it must be unveiled by the Trudeau government that this is the writing on the wall for the end of Justin Trudeau. There's nothing to hide at this point. And where I say that we're still in line for a spring election, what you have to remember is that Jagmeet Singh voted in favor of this. The Bloc voted in favor of this with the Conservatives. The only people who voted no to the transparency of these documents were the Liberals. So the entire House of Commons has turned on the Liberal Party. And once these reports come to light, amongst other things that we're going to discuss in this video, because boy, is this a bombshell. But once those things come to light, once the money is seen as this paper trail of where it went, who it went to, the government is being ordered to recoup those costs of this roughly $80 million that went out. It's going to be interesting to see what comes of that. But the NDP and their coalition won't be able to stand and prop up the Liberals when this happens. For a leader like Jagmeet Singh, who talks about greedy grocery CEOs and taking money from people, well, the Trudeau government is going to be lambasted for what they've been giving out in terms of $1,900 a day per diems, money that was illegally funded to contractors that didn't do the work they said they were going to, as well as people who work for the Department of Defense taking contracts while getting nothing more than millions of dollars of taxpayers' money. But that's not what we're here for today, folks, because the snowball is getting bigger. Pierre Poilievre having a massive, massive drop this morning. Again, I won't even do a sponsor on this video because this is a long one, ladies and gentlemen, and well, we've been duped. Now, when it came to the pandemic, when it came to everything that went on during the pandemic, you always heard the terms trust the science. You always heard that we know the science. We have experts. We have everybody who knows how things have been handled. Now, for YouTube's purposes, I am going to say I am certainly not telling you what to put in your body. I am not telling you what effectiveness vaccines have or anything to do with vaccines, because what has gone on here is Chinese corruption that Pierre Poilievre has blown open. Justin Trudeau's days are completely numbered. I think if you're going to do anything with your body, I would always advise talking to your doctor and getting professional medical opinions as to what level you deem those as professional is up to you and your doctor. But what's more concerning is, again, what is happening with this document. Pierre Poilievre coming out showing that a massive PRC infiltration has happened in a lab in Winnipeg. And as he states during this press conference, this is not a university lab. This is not a funded lab. This is a top government lab in cahoots with China, with certain labs that Pierre's going to talk about. And rather than try to screw this video over by talking about it, we'll simply speculate based on what Pierre Poilievre has to say. Again, it's about 7 minutes. The video clip says it's 17. I'm not going to cover all the questions during this conference, but mostly what Pierre is talking about, and then we'll discuss. So again, ladies and gentlemen, stick around for afterwards because there's a lot to talk about. I'm going to do my best not to jump into this video as much as possible. Let's get it started.
The cost, the crime, the corruption, and the cover-up But now we know that he cannot protect our people or our country. We just received these documents that Trudeau has been covering up for years. Documents related to a massive security breach at the Trudeau government's most sensitive laboratory, where the most dangerous viruses and pathogens are studied and handled. We have learned that the Trudeau government's head of pathogens was collaborating with members of Beijing's People's Liberation Army who are responsible for bioweapons and bioterrorism. We know now that a People's Liberation Army official was able to gain personal access, walk in the door, look at computers, and has access to all of our most important virological secrets. If you think any of this is hyperbole, read the report yourself. This is from government documents, the Trudeau government's own documents. It says here on page 142, Winnipeg lab scientist Dr. Chu, Special Pathogens Unit, the top person in that job, according to documents on page 242, quote, represents a serious and credible danger to the Government of Canada as a whole, and in particular at facilities considered high security due to the potential for theft of dangerous materials attractive to terrorists and foreign entities that conduct espionage damage the economic security of Canada, end quote. It states further on page 239.
So I'm just going to jump in, folks, here where the audio's jumping around. I'm not sure if that's an edit that has gone through on YouTube. I'm not sure what's going on there, but it is not done by me. So if we're missing anything here as he's dropping names, as there's any statements being made, again, I would encourage people to check out the report. I'm sure it'll be published online. I will do my best to get a link to it to put in the description, but I'm going to let this continue. Again, if there's any hiccups in the audio, I'm just letting you know it's not on my end, but let's continue.
Investigators assessed that Dr. Chu communicated with foreign entities during her trips to China. The evidence obtained from interviews and from information collected from the electronic content of her devices reveal that this is indeed the case. As a subject matter expert with access to sensitive information and dangerous materials, Dr. Chu presents a realistic and credible threat to Canada's economic security when conducting repeated and clandestine meetings with foreign entities, end quote. Then it says Dr. Chu conducted joint research with the Major General Chen Wei of the People's Liberation Army, who, according to page 236, is a noted top virologist at the Academy of Military Medical Sciences and is China's chief biological defense expert engaged in research related to biosafety, biodefense, and bioterrorism. Bioterrorism, end quote. And these are documents, this is right out of the government's own documents. Trudeau, what did he do when he found out about this? Did he immediately inform Canadians of the breach? Did he fire anybody? No, no one was fired. Did he call an inquiry to get to the bottom of it? No, he didn't do that either. Instead, he covered it all up. He defied 4 parliamentary orders to release these documents. When the Speaker tried to get them, he sued the Speaker to cover this up. He said it was all for national security, but now we know from a committee composed of 4 members of Parliament, including 1 Liberal, and 3 judges, and I quote, the information appears to be mostly about protecting the organization from embarrassment for failures in policy and implementation, not legitimate national security concerns, and its release is essential to hold the government to account. In other words, there was no national security reason why we couldn't have had this before. It was only because Trudeau didn't want the embarrassment before an election. So what did he do then? He collaborated, knowing this, he collaborated with Beijing to buy a vaccine for COVID. Could you imagine if the deal that Trudeau wanted to sign with Beijing had gone ahead and we had procured China-made vaccines after learning this information? That's what was in this guy's head. And if you think for a minute, because I know there'll be all kinds of excuses, well, he's not responsible and how could he possibly take ownership of what happens in his government. Let me quote him. He has a document called Open and Accountable Government. And I quote, "As head of government, the Prime Minister has special responsibilities for national security." End quote. It's his responsibility. This is his government's lab. It's not a random university lab. It's the top lab for the Prime Minister's public health agency. And he is exclusively responsible for the machinery of government as Prime Minister of the country. So this is on Justin Trudeau. I will add one last thing. Not only did he cover it up, not only did he try to get a vaccine from China after knowing this, he called a snap election to make sure that the voting would happen before this came out. And what happened in that election? Beijing interfered to help him win it. This is a man who says he admires China's basic communist dictatorship. We cannot trust Justin Trudeau to keep our people and its country safe. We need a strong, conservative, common-sense government that will root out foreign interference, protect our critical secrets and our medical research, and stand on guard for our country to keep our people and our nation safe. Thank you.
So before we get into the questions, because there's a couple questions that pertain to Arrive scam in here, as well as ongoing documents of this. Now, again, I physically am not going to discuss anything related to what was coming out of China or what was going on in China. I'm going to let Pierre do all of those things because, again, YouTube doesn't like you talking about those things. But these are actual documented proof documents. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with YouTube when it comes to how this video is treated. But again, I'll remind everybody that this is the time to hit that like button, to subscribe, to comment, to try and get it out as much as possible. These are the kind of videos that need to come out. Now, when you look at everything going on with Arrive scam, when you look at this absolute shocking bombshell that's being dropped on Justin Trudeau, this is where people have said in the comments, and again, I'm not faulting anybody who says this, because over the last 8 years, Trudeau has skated on a lot of different things, but how would it be possible at this point in time, with this much pressure on the Trudeau government, with these documents coming out, with Arrive scam having to be blown open and exposed, with paper trails having to be given, this is the beginning of the end. And this is where I say it's very similar to something on the grade of the sponsorship scandal. I think this is going to end up being larger. I think that we're going to see, maybe not Trudeau, but because we all know how well he can protect himself, but we're going to see, I feel, at some point, some form of arrests. And it's going to be interesting to see who is held accountable when it comes to these documents being buried, when it comes to why we were not given these documents, as well as when we question things to do with Arrive scam, like the detention of people during the pandemic, being told to lose their wages, to stay in their homes, or face massive fines for people that were told you're not allowed to see your family members, people told you're not allowed to go to restaurants, you're not allowed to go outside. This is going to explode. It is absolutely going to blow up. And again, I will understand if people in the comments say nothing's going to happen. It's a nothing burger. You guys are free to think what you want, but I just don't see, with this much coming up in this much time, in this little 48-hour period, how Justin Trudeau could possibly skate at this point. My prediction, my personal prediction, is that you're going to see him either step down within the next, I'd say, 30 days, or else I think there's going to be a lot of pressure for an election. I think that, again, the NDP cannot support a Liberal government when there's this much corruption being exposed, unless they all want to lose their jobs too, which very well may be possible. But all it's going to do at this point is pump up things for the Conservatives to get more and more seats when it comes time to run an election. Now, I want to get to the questions that Pierre has asked, because, again, those are very important, folks. So let's get into that. There's only about 2 minutes of questions, and then we'll finish up, but let's jump in.
There is a report by CTV that says that there is a man who runs a company that got $8 million for Arrive Can. He is still employed by the Department of National Defense. What does that say to you?
It says to me that there's no accountability. Now that we know this individual should be immediately fired, and there should be an immediate police investigation of his conduct and that of the company with which he's associated, and a broader inquiry within the public service about how this contracting was allowed to go on for so long.
Before they get into that, one thing I want to add on in the context of that is, again, CTV ironically asking the question. We covered an article this morning from CTV that stated the Department of Defense had canceled all contracts with this gentleman and that he was no longer working with them. So again, just for context sake, I don't know if maybe this journalist was ill-informed, or if Pierre is ill-informed, or if that article was ill-informing us. But either way, just take it as you may. But to my knowledge, from the article that we read in the last video, these contracts or future contracts were canceled with this individual, and they said he is no longer working in conjunction with the Department of Defense, and that they take these allegations very seriously. But the last question is the one I wanted to cover.
On the Winnipeg lab, do you think the National Microbiology Lab infectious disease researchers should be allowed to do any collaborations with China at this point?
No.
Can you explain why?
Because we know that in this instance that our highest placed, most sensitive lab was infiltrated by people who collaborated with the People's Liberation Army, who did not reveal any of their ongoing partnerships with the regime in Beijing, and who transferred materials from our most critical lab containing our most dangerous viruses over to Beijing and worked in collaboration with the Wuhan lab. So I don't think this is the kind of collaboration we want. We should be collaborating with like-minded democracies that we can trust, not those that want to attack our interests.
Okay, so it does go into questions from other people, but again, Pierre saying no. What I really love about this is when the reporter says, do you think they should do work with China? And he says no, and she says, why not? He's holding an essentially university-level thesis underneath his arm, showing every reason why we should not be collaborating with China moving forward and where that may put things at risk. The fact that they ask why, I mean, I guess from a journalistic standpoint, they have to. But at the same time, personally, I don't understand who they think they are to ask such a stupid question. Now, again, if you want to get the full context of the questions that were asked, again, other MPs are involved in that scrum for about another 10 minutes of footage. So I'm not going to cover any of those questions. I mostly wanted to cover what Pierre was dropping and what was coming out, because, ladies and gentlemen, if you watch Question Period today, I can guarantee you this is going to explode. There's going to be a lot more clips about this. There's going to be a lot more discussion about it. But here it is in black and white, ladies and gentlemen, corruption at its finest. And it's going to be very damning. Again, I think that anybody, again, can say what they like about the Trudeau government, but I don't see how in any physical way, shape, or form, when this level of corruption, not just taking money, not just, conflicts of interest, we're talking about theft, we're talking about deception, we're talking about trampling of human rights to a level we haven't even seen, that we all suspected was around, but is now confirmed in documents. I don't see how a party gets away from this at this point, especially, again, when Jagmeet Singh voted in favor yesterday to expose the costs of the money going out during a Arrive scam. I think that this is the beginning of the end for the Liberals, but let me know what you guys think. Give me your comments down below. Again, please like, share, comment, subscribe. I'm sure YouTube does not want anybody getting their eyes on this video, so do what you can to help get it out in the algorithm. Every time you hit the like button, every time you comment, it does put us out there and tell people, hey, people are watching this. So everything you guys can do to help is always appreciated. Make sure to join us tomorrow night here on the channel, live for Friday Night Fringe, where we're going to go over definitely this, as amongst other things that have happened this week. We're going to have a discussion back and forth with the community. It's always great to hear what you guys have to say in there, and I look forward to seeing each and every one of you. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll catch you on the next one.